Your frame of God being an unstoppable force, can you tell us the overarching story of the Bible?
In all of my Bible classes, I start off saying that that it is a meta-narrative. That though there's discourse and there's poetry and other types of writing within the Bible, it's still all held together by one big story. And from my lit classes, even in secular schools, I learned that the basic things that you look for when you read a story are characterization, setting, and plot. Those are the basics. Sine qua non. Without those three, you don't have a story. Okay? If the Bible is a story, or since the Bible is a story, then who are the characters? Well, the main characters are pretty easy to figure out. It's going to be humanity, God, and to a far lesser degree, Satan, but also the world. And I include that as character because the heavens and the earth are called upon as witnesses to the covenant. I can elaborate on that more, but I won't. So we have the characters, we have the setting. Once again, heavens and the earth, which is where we are. What's the plot? And can the plot of the Bible be stated simply? And so I give them the age-old logical dilemma. What happens when an irresistible force meets an immovable object? And that is the conflict of the Bible. The irresistible force is God's desire to bless us. The immovable object is that we don't want to be blessed on God's terms. We want to seek our welfare on our own terms. Now, when you state it as bluntly as that, do you want to be blessed or not? It sure makes every sin that we ever commit seem awfully stupid. No, I don't want to be blessed. I'd rather try it my own way. Okay, and how's that working out? Well, ever since the fall, not very well. Not very well at all. Now, if that's the big idea, you can kind of zero down to a much smaller level, and chapter by chapter, I think that we see an emphasis on either the irresistible force, God's blessing, or on the rebellion, the unstoppable or the immovable object. So Genesis chapter 1, that would be blessing. And God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth. Genesis 2, also about blessing. Genesis chapter 3, human rebellion. We don't want to do it your way. Genesis chapter 4, Cain and Abel, human rebellion. Genesis chapter 5, and at this point, we tend to kind of tune out because Genesis 5 is just a genealogy. But what is a genealogy? It's the being fruitful and multiplying. It's the blessing actually working its way out in life. Genesis 6 through 9, oy vey. It's all about human hard-heartedness and rebellion. Okay, but at the end of 9, you have Noahic covenant. It's about blessing. Genesis chapter 10, 11, 12. You just go back and forth between blessing and obstinance on people's part. And so I think there's a stronger emphasis on one over the other in most of the narrative of the entire Bible. And so when I'm reading any chapter of the Bible, I'm thinking in terms of that matrix, again, with a different question now, than you're typically going to find like in a commentary. But is this mostly about blessing or is this mostly about rebellion?
And that kind of helps you shape as you read the text.
Yeah, although I wouldn't say it's shaping as much as helps me to follow it.
Yeah.
What is it doing? Yeah.
So in that frame, the end of the story.
Which is the greatest part, because this sounds so, to me, so incredibly postmodern. It is quite literally, a choose your own ending story. The whole Bible is. Because when you get to the end, which wins out? The irresistible force or the immovable object? And when I ask students that in class, of course, they all say the irresistible force because God has to win. He's more powerful. But God, in his wisdom, has created it a different way. And here I'll draw on C.S. Lewis, who said in the end, there's two kinds of people. Those who say to God, thy will be done. And those to whom God says, thy will be done. So in the end, we get to choose how our story is going to end. And it's either going to be beyond anything that our minds can imagine or that our eyes have seen. It's a happily ever after to an infinite power. Or, as C.S. Lewis puts it, we can't conceive of it in the worst of our nightmares. It will be so tragic because ultimately it's about, for those who choose not to be blessed on God's terms, it's about alienation.
Weeping and gnashing of teeth outside. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's all about distance from. That is the
separation.
Yeah.
Separation from the source of every good and perfect gift, according to James.